Welcome to Pyrotechnics, the podcast brought to you by your number one publication, Fireworks Rock and Metal Magazine. Please check out fireworksmagazine.com or firescapeofficial.com for information on our latest issue. Now it's time for the good stuff, so please welcome your host, Pete Arnett.
Right, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pyrotechnics, the podcast brought to you by your number one publication, Fireworks Rock and Metal Magazine. Issue 102 is still out in the shops, but issue 103 is coming out on the 15th of June. So if you want to pre-order it, go to our website, www.fireworksmagazine.com, and head on over to the shop, and you know what to do from there. Right, this is a wonderful episode for us. We have a special guest with us. And when James and myself and Dave and all the other co-hosts as well speak, we like, we mention names of people who would like to come on the podcast. And when my co-host to the left, by the way, welcome, James.
Good evening, everybody.
Mentioned this lady's name, 50% of me went, oh, that would be fantastic if we could get her on the show. And the other 50% of me meant never in a month of Sundays. I'm very glad to say, viewers, it is a month of Sundays because we have the one and only Kerry Ellis with us. Welcome, Kerry.
Oh, that was a very lovely intro. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's lovely to be here. I mean, we're not in the room together. I'm in sunny Stafford at the moment. But yeah, no, it's lovely to have me on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Right, let us start, obviously, with your new album, Kings and Queens. Out on the 12th of May 2023, obviously. Fourth solo recording, but you do have another live album as well with, in James and I's case, it's God. It's Brian May. So you also have that one. Now, on this new album, the songs are absolutely fantastic. You've included one by the late, great Tina Turner, Be Tender With Me Baby, which I heard that when I first heard that for the first time on your album, I was absolutely blown away. And I was sitting there thinking, I know this song. Song. And for ages, I just couldn't place it. There's also that saying, isn't there, about putting your own stamp on it, making it your own. And you've certainly done that with that version of it. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
I
mean, the song, it's interesting because when we were looking at songs, it was really important to me to do an album that, first and foremost, I wanted songs that I would listen to and that I would play in my car, things that made me happy. And that was kind of the inspiration behind it all. And then Ridian Roberts, who is part of Westway Music, who was kind of helping drive my this project, and lovely Neil O'Brien, who else is an old friend as well, and we were various people were submitting songs for us, and we were listening to new music, and we did think a couple of covers is always quite good for people to kind of people like to hear things that they know, but I wanted to make the covers, because we've only got, I think it's 3 we've got on there. I wanted to make them things that were interesting and have a real reason to be there. And Be Tender With Me Baby, I had the exact same reaction as you had when I listened to it. And I was like, this is so, I obviously knew, I was listening to Tina do it, and I obviously knew it was her, but I was like, this song is so familiar, but it's not. And the reason being is that when it was released very shortly after one of her massive hits. And it kind of just got a bit overshadowed, but by one of her other big hits. I dare say it was a B-side, but so it's kind of familiar to people, but not familiar to people. And ironically, I performed it at the launch show at the Adelphi, and people loved it, and it's a really heartfelt, it's a powerful song anyway. But obviously, then she recently passed and left us, and it was kind of weird that it was on the album, because I've not covered a Tina Turner song before, ever. And I happened to be on a ship that week, and we got the news, and we were like, I've got to put that in the show that night. And we finished the show with that song, and we put lots of pictures and images up of Tina, and it was like it was meant to be. It was like it was just meant to be on that album. And yeah, I'm just... still moved by it, really. I mean, again, sometimes things just happen and who knew we were going to lose her? And I felt really kind of blessed to have that song there at that time.
I mean, it really is
I
such a
like the
fitting.
fact as well that like Pete says, you have put your own stamp on it. But when you approach a song like that, how difficult is it to like shoot out Tina's version? Because obviously she sings in a very specific and very, definitive way. So you've got to look, then basically put that to one side. If it was me, I'd just think it would just be in my head.
Well, it was, but again, I think my whole life I've interpreted songs. I've been kind of a vessel for interpreting songs. It's kind of what I've done, where I've come from, and usually we kind of change. If I'm covering a song, we'll change it in some way. We might change the vibe, or might change the tempo, or the structure slightly. But with this, we didn't really need to kind of do anything. It just kind of felt right just to sing it and sing it from the heart and just give it my kind of vocal interpretation. And it was kind of the big rock song that's on the album that people kind of want from me. It kind of ticks that box because a lot of the others are a little bit more laid back and a little bit more kind of story led, emotion led, if you like. But this kind of gave people what they wanted.
Yeah,
Well, I
definitely.
think it's a fitting tribute. I really do. I mean, like I said, when I first heard it, I was like, I just know I know that song.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't place it for ages. And then when I did, it was like, oh my word, what a
What a banger.
yeah, basically, yeah. But like you said as well, there is two more covers on it as well. But one of the questions I also wanted to ask was, how important was it for you for this album for it to be sort of like mainly original stuff and obviously a few covers as well? Because we know a lot of your stuff beforehand has been like the musical theatre stuff that
Yeah.
you're extremely well known for. Let's be fair. But this
Yeah.
album, was more original stuff, more a few covers. How important was that for you to make sure that that was the case?
Oh, hugely important. Because I've kind of done a lot of different albums. I've done the album that people wanted from me, which was Anthems. The big kind of orchestral, dramatic, big rock guitars. Big sound, big belty voice. Done that. I've done the kind of musical theatre album, my KE album, and kind of my last one, Feels Like Home, was similar. I've done the acoustic album with Brian. I kind of scratched all those itches, apart from an album full of original material. And Brian's written me a few songs in the past, and we've collaborated on songs, and that's been great. But it's always been kind of spotted around, covers or Queen songs, or songs that from shows that have been kind of synonymous to me. So yeah, for this one, I wanted to have a go at it. I wanted to have a go and have an album that was original songs, and that if I got to do a festival at any point, I could play my own songs. That was important. I mean, I've never been a songwriter as such. It's not where I come from. It's not my bag. But I wanted to do something that people would associate with me and that they hadn't heard before.
But nevertheless, you have still written one of the songs on here, haven't you? Because you've got one that you had. It was in the bag for quite some time, and you weren't quite sure where it was going to fit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a couple of them actually. I mean, the one with Ben Adams, we worked on together through the lockdown. But again, he came with the idea, and he came with the start of it. I kind of just helped him develop it. And the same with Home Again, when I met up with Frank, when I went to New York, we kind of developed that together. Again, he had the essence of the song. It's just that when we got together in the studio, I kind of helped develop it. And that's kind of what I do. I can kind of take a song and take it to another level and progress it and give it something else.
I mean, I keep saying this, people, you've got to listen to these albums by these artists. It's absolutely fantastic, this album. One thing I really did like as well about going back to the covers is the fact that you didn't do well-known covers in respect of the songs that you chose. People possibly weren't too au fait with them, and they just sound, they sound beautiful because of it. It's not a song that, because when people know a song, they have certain expectations.
Mm.
And then when you come out with the songs that you come out with, it's, you know, you can just listen to them. There's just a beautiful flow about them. Again, you know, going back to how important was it for you that you didn't do the covers that everybody knew, or do the songs that everybody knew? You wanted to pick something that's a bit more not out there per se, but you know, that people didn't recognize.
Yeah, I think it's because I've done that. You know, I've done that in the past. I've done really big songs that people know and people love, and they're great to have. You know, especially when you're doing live shows. Those kind of songs are brilliant to have because people want to sing along. They want to get involved. They want to know the songs. You know, it's really difficult to play a brand new album of new songs that people don't hear to them live. You know, it's hard. And even big kind of superstars don't do it. You know, they don't just play a brand new album that people don't know. Based usually they've had a load of radio play beforehand, so people are familiar with the music. Um, I mean, I'm really fortunate to have a real good support network, and people they trust. You know, they trust in me, and they come and they support me, and they will listen. And that was amazing about the launch show at the Adelphi. You know, people had heard it a few days before, and obviously I'd had a couple of singles out, but they didn't know it all, and they really it was amazing to listen how the album flowed and worked, and the audience responded to it.
That was one of the things I wanted to ask Kerry because the first song you put out was Battlefield, and you had like a lyric video for it. But then the title track, you had a proper video shot where you're at this like huge, it looked like a stately home. Where was that filmed?
You know what? I don't even remember. I think it was about an hour north of me, and it was a beautiful place. I mean, the venue was gorgeous, and yeah, it was a fun day. I mean, they're always weird. I always find videos weird because it's for me like I'm used to being part of a show and telling a story and having purpose and doing all that. So when I come to make a music video, I always find it a bit strange and a bit awkward. Um, there is a story in those songs, but it still feels a bit odd to me to not have that narrative. Um, but yeah, I had a great day, and it was a lot of fun. And again, it's giving people, they don't have the tangible thing anymore. They don't have the tangible CD as such. I know we've put out a few, but people want more. So to give them videos and lyric videos and extra footage, I think people like.
Well, one of the things I want to ask is what I've noticed about as well. One the category you seem to get put on with this album is pop all the time, which I think is a bit unfair. Because I mean, Kings and Queens certainly is rock track in my opinion. There's some hauntingly beautiful ballads on that album. Battlefield, you've already mentioned, that's one of them. And there's also some country influences in there as well. I think I can hear. I mean, how annoying is it for you to just got to keep on getting put in the pop category when there's all these different things going on?
I mean, to me, it doesn't really worry me because I make the music that I want to make, and where people place it doesn't really worry me. And also, like people that listen to it, I don't think they place it as such. They kind of just listen and love it, or listen and don't like it. I think I think we're in a world of categories and and people like to put you in a genre or a box or so that they can find you. We're kind of saturated with social media and iTunes and media as such. We're saturated with it, and I think people have to put it somewhere. But essentially, it's about the music is the music to me, and music is music to me. Like I don't really have a certain style or genre of music that I love or don't love. For me, music is music, and I could love an operatic song, and then I can love a country song, and then I can love a pop song and like a rock song. It's about the song and the melody and the words and the lyrics for me why I like something.
So was that with the criteria when it was coming to pick these songs that were being offered by the label? Was that what you were primarily looking for? Something that lyrically you clicked with or melodically you clicked with?
Yeah, something that spoke to me. I mean, we got some lovely songs sent to us. We really did. And at one point we had too many. And yeah, it was just something that I clicked with instantly. And it was different things, different songs that had different hooks for me. Like Battlefield, the same. The lyrics got me. My All, the lyrics got me. Um, but like Lemonade, or Big Wide World. I love Big Wide World, but it had that kind of country, like sing along feel. So that was that was the thing. So they all had different hooks, and the Tina song again, it was familiar and passionate and strong and powerful, and that just got me. It really got me.
Now, James has written a review, obviously, with Kings and Queens, and again, it can be found on our website. Obviously, go and read it, people, and then go out and buy Kerry's album. Go to a website, have a look. It's absolutely fantastic. What I want to do now, Kerry, if we can, is just sort of move away a little bit from the new album and mention, obviously, being a rock and metal magazine, that's what we're sort of interested in some respects. And I want to go on now to your part in We Will Rock You. Obviously, the stage show done by Ben Elton and Brian and many other people as well. But when you were in My Fair Lady, Brian came and scouted you, didn't he? Although you didn't know he had done at the time. I seem to remember reading somewhere. Now, when We Will Rock You came around, that was in 2002. And there wasn't many type of that kind of musical theatre around, was it? Because you tend to associate theatre with, the old-fashioned stuff that people know and love, Les Miserables and Phantom of the Opera and that kind of stuff. So when rock music opera sort of came in, I think there was, let me just have a look at my notes, there was Boogie Nights, Buddy and Mamma Mia, I think, came before We Will Rock You. So in essence, it was sort of like a newish kind of area, but one that was obviously growing in popularity. You were 23 at the time, I believe, that when you first started We Will Rock You. So did it feel like a gamble for you going into this kind of rock musical, with it being so in its infancy, and obviously you've been sort of in your early stages of your career as well? And then when you heard the big bombastic songs coming on, We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, and all that lot, and the entire cast is there at the rehearsal, what was that like? Thinking, we've got to sing this, yay, kind of thing.
Yeah, there was never any doubt. It was never a gamble at all. It was, it was my second big show, and I was getting offered an original role to create something, to be part of. I obviously knew who Queen were. My dad was a huge rocker, and I grew up listening to them and Meatloaf and Bonnie Tyler and Tina Turner. My dad was a huge rocker, so it was just exciting from day one. Even in the rehearsal room, in the auditions, to be in an audition with Brian and Roger and Ben and Arlene, and it was electric from day one. It really was. And the success of the show it just keeps coming back. It's just got so much more life to it, and it's done so well all over the world. And it's nice that it's coming back to the Coliseum. I will go and see it. I can't see opening night, sadly, because I'm up here in Stafford, but I will go and see it. And it's Brian and Roger's baby. They're very connected to it. And it was nice that I was part of it. And it's a huge machine. It's a huge family. And yeah, I'm just grateful that I was part of it.
Were Brian and Roger quite hands-on in the rehearsal, or did they sort of stay back with it not being particularly their world?
Oh, hugely hands-on, especially Brian, especially with the music. He was, what he's like. He's very particular about things and get obsessive about things, and he wanted things the right way. And also, I think what he did brilliantly was allow things to adapt and change, like things like the key change in No One But You. That was all done in the rehearsals to make it work for me. And I think that was important to them, to make it, to not just have their songs played exactly how they used to play them, but to adapt them. And Somebody to Love was another one. It was adapted for Hannah, and that was brilliant. To have them actually there to make those decisions and make those choices was helpful, and it made the show something special.
Because your character Meat, who you played obviously in We Will Rock You, you got to sing the solo song, didn't you? Not No One But You, Only the Good Die Young, which was one of the original Queen members, obviously Brian May, Roger Taylor and John Deacon. They did post Freddie's death, and I think a lot of people sort of associate that song very much with Freddie. I know Roger sort of come out and said afterwards that, you know, it's for the whole sphere of people, not just Freddie. But I think a lot of sort of Queen fans sort of naturally gravitate to that song being, you know, about Freddie. How did you feel any trepidation singing this song, knowing about the sort of like the big backstory that it had, knowing that, you know, Queen fans would be thinking, oh, that's kind of Freddie's song, but obviously within the sphere, We Will Rock You as well, knowing that that song was for the show as well.
I think now I do. Now I get it. But at the time, I think I was kind of blissfully ignorant. Not ignorant, naive to it, I think maybe, because again, over the years, Brian has told me more and more stories, and I've got much more um, information about these songs, and about Freddie and about them and him writing the song. And um, but at the time, I mean, at the time I didn't really know the song, because it was quite a Queen song that wasn't one of their massive hits. So from me, I was growing up, I didn't really know it. So when I was learning it to sing it for them in the audition, it was kind of, I was more concentrating on getting the song right and the lyrics right, as opposed to the weight of the song. And that was probably my age too. Um, so yeah, I just knew that Brian had written this song. I didn't know the depths of it. I mean, I could kind of figure it out, but um, yeah. So I mean, since then, he's told me kind of where he wrote it and why he wrote it, and you know those connections and the lyrics, and you know, and he's kind of completely talked it through with me. Ironically, not when I was in the show. Like when I was in the show, he would come and talk to me about the song, but it kind of in a performance way. But since then, and much more recently, he's actually talked to me more about writing of the song, and what it meant, and where the lyrics came from and stuff. And so the song has had a real life with me. Been singing it for nearly 20 years in all different kinds of situations, and setups, and it never gets old. It always has a place. I feel kind of very honored to be trusted with it, and to still have a um, responsibility to sing it. You know, it's a weird one.
And also, Brian says that yours is the definitive version now.
Well, I do pay him to say.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's obvious to see that you've got such a great, you know, musical relationship with Brian. That's stretched over, you know, quite a few years now. What is it like to have such a musical legend in your corner? You know, to be able to write with him, to record with him, to have him produce, you know, your music, and then go on tour with him. You know, spill the beans. What's he like?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, he's kind of like a family member. I mean, my kids call him Uncle Bry, you know, and he's kind of like he's like an uncle to me. It's weird. It's again, I think over time, when I was a lot younger in the show, we didn't really hang out as such. You know, through the show, I didn't go in the studio. You know, it was a lot. It was later. It was when I'd left the show, and we kind of started to do the odd day in the studio here and there. But it wasn't until kind of Wicked days when we really cracked on with anthems, and it, you know, it became really quite serious. And I was like, well, we're going to do this album, you know. And then, you know, the partnership developed over the years. We didn't really know what it was to start with. I think initially Brian was trying to produce me and give me a vehicle as such. But then when he played on the Anthems tour, it was so apparent that it couldn't be that, because I used to say to him, it's like the elephant in the room. You know, you can't not be like, you can't not be there with me, because people are just so you're like a magnet. You know, people are just so excited that you're there, and you're so familiar to people, that he'd either have to take himself out of my band completely, or we had to do something slightly different, which is why, and it was me that was pushing for it really. The second album and the second tour that we did, the acoustic one, was very much the two of us. And it was me pushing for that, because I just kept saying to him, you can't be in my band. It just doesn't work. It doesn't, I'm not Freddie, and we don't have Roger, and we're it just doesn't kind of work. And our Anthems tour was amazing. I had the best time, and it was incredible. But I think we really developed and we really changed. And then obviously we did the acoustic by candlelight a couple of times, and we just kind of found our groove and found our way, and it just got better and better, I think. And yeah, I think it'd be interesting if we played with a band now. I mean, we have played with an orchestra together, which works quite well as well. But that was the thing we wanted to do next. But again, life just gets in the way, and projects get in the way. He's obviously been touring with Queen again quite a lot, and with Adam, and I'm doing loads of stuff. So to get actually some dates together, or get something together. I mean, we did a thing with Luca Manelli not that long ago in Italy. Those kind of things pop up, which is nice. But yeah, it's always something new. It's always something different. And when it's almost like there's no pressure to do anything. We come together at when it's meant to be, kind of thing, and we will do something and see if it works, and that's the beauty of it. And I think when somebody gets to his level, for him it has to be something that's interesting, or something that inspires him or sparks him, because why would he do it? He doesn't need to do it. He's so busy doing so many things that there has to be a reason.
The thing I really liked about the acoustic by candlelight tour as well is that it gave Brian the opportunity to do some songs that a lot of people would have really heard live. Like, for example, you did "Life Is Real" off the Hot Space album, which is a really deep Queen cut. There's loads of Queen fans who don't even know that song. And
I love it. Love
yeah,
that
and
song.
it's a brilliant little tribute to Lennon. And I don't think Queen have played that maybe ever, or maybe just one tour. That was it, and then it's never been heard again. So for that to come out and to do like "Dust in the Wind" by Kansas and things like that, it gave Brian so many other options. So did you have much warning when these songs were getting introduced, or did you just go, "We're doing this tonight"?
Oh no, I did. I did. I mean, it always changed and developed. But again, we would talk about what songs we like, or what songs affected him. The Everly Brothers song, that we used to sing, was very much, he was inspired by the Everly Brothers. So for him, he was like, I grew up singing these songs, and I was like, well, we should sing that song. We should do that. So and obviously we did a couple of Beatles songs and Queen songs and theatre songs, and what was nice is that there was no limits, there was no boundaries for us. We could sing anything, we could do anything. And I think he enjoyed that. I think he enjoyed being able, there was no pressure, there was no like everybody waiting for his Bohemian Rhapsody solo, or his him to play the solo in Somebody to Love. There was no pressure on him to do anything. So I think he could be really free as well, which I think is fun for somebody that's so used to playing certain songs, to have that freedom and to have that excitement of what he had years ago when he was writing new songs and that kind of thing. I think was exciting for him, and I think that's what a lot of it was. It was new, it was fresh, it was different, and there was no pressure.
Right then, I think we're going to give Kerry a rest from speaking now, so we're going to listen and watch one of her videos, and that video is the title track, Kings and Queens.
This is the
So there you have it, Kings and Queens from our special guest, Kerry Ellis. Right, Kerry. James and I are big Queen fans. In fact, James is probably the uber Queen fan, to be honest with you. And we've been discussing on the podcast our favourite Queen album. That did raise quite a debate in some respects. James, you went with
Sheer Heart Attack.
Sheer Heart Attack, that's right. And I went with It's a Kind of Magic. Now, obviously, as part of the Queen, the extended Queen family, Kerry, we're going to put you on the spot now and ask you, what's your favourite Queen album and why?
Oh, dear me.
And if James told you as well, you're not allowed to mention Queen's greatest hits because apparently that's a cop-out, he says.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think possibly. That's really hard. I think maybe A Night at the Opera because I like the cover. I love the cover, and I think also it's just it was something a bit different. They kind of it's took them in a slightly different direction. Well, I say that. I think the joy about their music is that it's just so diverse. So much of it is so different, and I love that there's still things that I haven't heard. Brian still sends me things, and he'll go, "Oh, I didn't know if you've listened to this," and it'll be an old Queen song, and I'll be like, never. I just hadn't heard it, and then it blows my mind. It really does, and yeah, I just think they've got so much. They've got such a catalogue of music, and all of it is so brilliant. And it also a lot of it sounds so fresh, so current. It's timeless, and that's a skill. I mean, that's insane that their music is still so powerful today.
Well, that's the thing with Queen. If you had a band, and like you said, if you had Brian May in your band as your guitar player and one of your songwriters, you'd be pretty happy with that. But they had Brian, they had Freddie, they had Roger, and they had John, all of whom wrote massive hit singles.
Yeah, I know, it's mad, isn't it? It kind of blows your mind, really. And I think you kind of need that, don't you? You need that. I think any one of them alone, it just would have never have perhaps been what it is. I think it needs those different elements. It needs those moments when they don't get on and they have difference of opinion, and it needs that conflict to make the brilliance that it's made.
I did hear there's a YouTube recording of Queen arguing in the studio, and it's one of the poshest arguments you'll ever hear in your life. It's great, but yeah, it's exactly that. It's like Roger's telling Brian he's playing too slow, and then there's Freddie just going, "Oh, come on, darling," and all this sort of thing. But it is. It's good. It's good to hear.
Fabulous, isn't it? I mean, they are real people at the end of the day, and I think that's kind of what you have to remember is that they're normal people. They lead extraordinary lives, but they were four, just regular boys, and they just created magic, timeless magic.
Definitely. James emailed me a question over, or a question that he was going to ask, which I would love to hear the answer to as well. And it's about have all the people that you've worked with, all the stars that you've met, have you ever been starstruck?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, yeah, loads of times. I mean, meeting Brian, I guess with Brian, the enormity of the audition, it was the first time I met him. So that kind of that almost took away some of the drama because I was so nervous and focused on the audition. The fact that he was sat there with Roger and Arlene Phillips and a bunch of other people took the I was kind of overwhelmed by the audition as opposed to kind of taking it. If I'd have met him on outside the theatre or met him on the street, I was really starstruck when I met Barry Manilow, but I was even more starstruck when I met Liza Minnelli. But I think that's because she was a childhood. I grew up loving her. She was an idol to me, and she came backstage at We Will Rock You, and met us after the show, and she kind of came over and went, "Hi, I'm Liza," and I just couldn't speak to her. I was literally speechless. I just couldn't string a sentence together. And yeah, I was proper starstruck when I met her.
Understandably so. I think Freddie Mercury would have been starstruck meeting Liza Minnelli.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Very lucky. Very lucky.
I was going to ask Kerry, on not just your new album, but all your albums and your stage shows, your tone and phrasing is absolutely superb. It's like, eh, to use the line that my grandma always used to say, "Oh, you can hear every word she's singing because you're
Uh-huh.
so clean and precise." And is
Mhm.
that your training from musical theatre background, or is that something you've always worked on personally?
I don't know. I don't think I really think about it, if I'm honest. I mean, yeah, I guess through theatre you have to be quite clear because you've got a story to tell, and the lyrics are really hugely important. And I didn't come from that pop world initially. Um, I mean, I grew up wanting to be a pop star and singing in my bedroom, but I guess my training was through theatre, so I guess I kind of had that element. Um, but I don't think about it. It's not something I kind of think about, over enunciating, or for me it's always kind of lyric and emotional led. It's how I feel. Um, and the lyrics are important, extremely important, but it's how I feel, really, I think, more than anything else.
Well, one of our colleagues, he listened to Kings and Queens album on the strength of my review because
Ah,
he'd never heard any of your albums before. He's enjoyed it. He's buying anthems, so mission accomplished.
yeah.
But
Oh,
he
really?
said he could hear some Streisand in your delivery, so I thought you'd be
Ooh.
pretty happy with that.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
So the
Right.
other thing, if I can just jump in with Pete,
Yeah,
because I've
go
got a part two for that. So what we did is the other episode we was talking about when people should basically pack it in when they can't do it anymore. Because there's some singers out there at the moment who are really struggling. John
Mm,
Bon Jovi, Axl Rose, but a lot of them like from the rock world. And you guys who've performed in theatre, you do like shows week in, week out. Twice when I saw you in Anything Goes, I saw you in the matinee. So you're doing that show twice a day. You have
mm.
to sing to a set standard every single night. So do you think that it's more a training thing or a lifestyle thing? Why do you think that West End singers don't get burned out like that?
Oh, they do. They absolutely do. I mean, doing 8 shows a week is hard on anyone. Whatever show you're doing, it just the level of show obviously makes it harder or not vocally. Um, but they do. But I think you kind of learn how to navigate it, and you have to look after yourself. There you, especially the older you get, you have to look after not only your voice, but you have to look after everything else because it feeds one another. So for me, to be weirdly, I think I was the fittest and the most healthiest I've ever been when I did Anything Goes. And I think it's because not just before then, but prior to that, I think I was a little bit more reckless and didn't look after myself physically as much as I do now. And I didn't realize how much it can help and aid getting through 8 shows a week. And it really has. I've noticed a massive difference. Just think changing my diet and changing my exercise routine and really looking after myself and not drinking. And I mean, I've never been a massive drinker anyway when I've been working, or I don't go out much when I'm working, but having those added layers of diet and exercise has been massive. And for me, I feel kind of more, like I say, I feel kind of, I feel like I have more energy than I've ever had doing a show of 8 shows a week. So yeah, it's important. It's really important. But I think that is in any in kind of any profession, any lifestyle. I think if the more you put in, the more you look after yourself, the better the outcome.
Yeah, well, honestly, when I saw you in Anything Goes and the level you were singing at, and you had those incredible tap routines that you had to do as well, I'm sat there with my giant Pepsi and my Galaxy going, I don't know how she's managing, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't know how she does it. I mean, I still don't get it right. I still have my days where it goes to pieces, and like I had a big family barbecue at the weekend, and I drank and I ate, and it's amazing how I then feel on the Monday or on the Sunday. I'm wiped out, and it's made me really realize how important diet and exercise is. And even when I kind of fall off my wagon a little bit, and you've got to, we're human, and what's the point if you can't live a bit? But I do notice a difference.
Right. A lot of people might not know this. I mean, hopefully people do know this, and hopefully people have been listening. But you're a podcaster as well.
I am, or I was. I am.
Yeah, you are. I mean, A, how did that come about? And B, how did you find it? And C, have you got any tips for any beginners like us? Because as you can tell, we're not that good at it.
Oh, you're fantastic at it. Yeah, I love the podcast world. I love I listen to podcasts, and I love it. I think it's a really nice way to get to know people, to get to know a bit more about perhaps something that you don't know about. It's a very friendly place. People aren't trying to catch you out or get some scandal I just feel like it's a really friendly, insightful place. Um, yeah, I listened to a lot of podcasts. I think like everybody did in the lockdown, and I listened to people like Fern Cotton's Happy Place, which was a big one. My friend Rhiannon Lambert had a nutritionist one. I listened to that. Alice Living, another friend of mine, had one, and she's a PT and a well-being expert, and I was just listening to these podcasts, thinking I feel like I'm in the room with them. I feel like I'm having a chat, and over the lockdown, we needed that. And I think I just was like, I think I could do this, and I could speak to a load of my friends and colleagues and people that I have connections with, and just have a chat and see if people like it. And they did, and that's kind of all it was, really. I'd had the idea to do it before the lockdown, really, but I hadn't had the time, and I hadn't fitted it in. And then obviously when the lockdown happened, I called up my friend Martin, who was a little podcast producer, and I said, "Can we do this over Zoom? And can you edit it? Can we do this?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course we can." And I think it was amazing how many guests I got and who I got, and I think people were all in the same boat and just wanted to talk and do something. And because people were in their homes, they were like, "Yeah, I'll give you half an hour and I'll chat to you." And it was amazing. And we did, each time, I mean, I only expected to do like one season, and we ended up doing, I think, 4 or 5. And I'd love to continue it. I'd love to do it again and do more. And I will at some point. It's just I haven't had time yet.
And the name
When
of
you
it was
fall off the
absolutely.
wagon and you get fat and you can't do any more shows, you can do it then.
I'm not going to get fat. I'm not going to do it, no.
Oh man. I was going to say, and the name of it is absolutely fantastic as well. And for people that don't know, it's Keep Calm and Carry On. Which who came up with that? Was that you? Because that's a brilliant name. Is that?
No, my producer came up with it, and he said it to me, and I went, "I'm having that because that is brilliant."
It's on Apple Podcasts as well. So people, if you want to go and listen to it, it's still there. Go and listen to it. It is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And like I say,
good people. And I think Brian's on there as well. I think I got Anita in as well. Dragged up all my friends and people I knew, and was like, will you do me, we do me a favor, and they did. They all did.
Brilliant as well. Like I say, go and listen to it, people. It really is worth a listen. Now I know that James has pre-warned you about this next bit, but on the podcast we like to do this bit called, like musical mishaps, funnies and fails. I ask normally a couple of questions. I ask the guests a couple of questions. So obviously I've got one for you and James. But last podcast, beg your pardon, I asked a question. Eric Clapton wrote the song Layla for another musician's wife. Who was that musician? Do you guys know before I give the answer out?
I think I do. Do you have any idea, Kerry?
No, I don't think I do.
George Harrison.
Yeah, spot on, James. Well done, mate. Well done.
Look at that. Look at that. Yes, you get the prize.
Although to be fair, Kerry, he has had a week to listen to this, so he's probably Googled the answer. Right then. So my question for you two for this one. Before he renamed himself Bob Dylan, Robert Allen Zimmerman, as his name is, briefly went by another name. Do you know what it is?
No, but I reckon James will.
Well,
He can't have Googled this one because I've only just made it up. This
Amazing.
you reckon what wrong? No, I have got no clue on that one.
No, right. It was Elston Gunn.
Oh,
I
okay.
would never have got that in a million years.
mate.
Right.
I've got
So
too much Shakespeare going on in my head at the moment to even get any more information in there right now.
fair enough. Right, a question for our audience. So again, if you know the answer, guys, leave the answer in the comments below, and we'll see how many of you got it right. Who featured as the cover story on the first issue of Rolling Stone? So, like I said, if you do know, I mean, if you guys know as well, feel free to leave the answer in the comments below, and we'll see if you're right. You know, we've managed to catch quite a few people out of these questions, so hopefully this will continue. It's quite funny to watch some of the answers. But one of the things that we've been talking about, Kerry, is musical mishaps, like I said, and we've mentioned poor old Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters, obviously, who took a tumble off stage, broke his leg, but was so rock and roll he grabbed the microphone and he was leaving the stadium and basically said, "I'm going to get my leg fixed and we're going to come back and play for you," and he did, to give him his due. And also we've had Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney, who sat down to play Live Aid in front of quite a few millions and millions of people. And some technician for the act previous had actually switched off the mic that he was singing into. So, of course, the first minute and a half of Let It Be has been cruelly dubbed by some people his best vocal performance because nobody could hear him. To be fair to him, he went back into the studio the following day, recorded the vocals, and every time you hear Live Aid now, you wouldn't know it's happened. Obviously, technology is a wonderful thing. But as you are a special guest, and we like to ask these things, have you had any musical mishaps? What's been the most funniest or the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you on stage?
Oh, there's been so many. I mean, there's been so many because it's just been so long. But I've had lots of costume malfunctions and people forgetting lines and me forgetting lines and bomb scares and people like stopping the show, and I mean it's all gone on. In fact, in Rock You, there used to be a time where in Headlong, and we were singing you run up the back and then we're all kind of marching up and down, and then this big kind of truck comes in, this big kind of camper van comes in, which then we all kind of jump on the top of it, and we do I Want It All on the top of this van, and and it's flown in, and it was quite early on in the previews, I think, and it just didn't come in, and there's there's the choreography, but we kind of just march behind it and then it comes down, and then we kind of clamber all over it. Well, I mean we laughed so much because obviously there's nothing happening, and then there's the four of us just upstage, like in the corner, just marching for like lots of a big bit of music, giggling to ourselves because then we're just laughing about who's going to do what, who's going to pretend that the van is there, what they're going to do. And we said it was the Teletubby moment because we just said we just look like little Teletubbies, like running around trying to fill the space of what this truck was meant to do. But yeah, I've had loads of mishaps. I mean, my wig came off in Les Mis, which was like hit the woman in the front row, and like she kind of put it back on the stage, and it's just all happened to me. There's no kind of in the moment they're the funniest thing. It's like that school laughter when you really shouldn't laugh, but it's the funniest thing. You can't stop yourself laughing. But yeah, it's kind of that fine line of if the audience are in on it, it's fine, but if they're not, it's not great.
I can sort of get the feeling that Roger Taylor's quite a practical joker, and has he ever, has him or Brian May or Rufus Taylor? Because I know you've played with him as well. Have they ever done anything? Have they ever been naughty to you?
Not really, and I think it's because the musical, it's quite, I just don't think they would ever dabble. I mean, they probably have had giggles themselves, on their tours. But I think it's a different beast when it's your own gig, because you can you can acknowledge it, you can make fun of it. I think when you're doing a musical, you're being somebody else, so it's always a bit weird. But I'm sure they've had plenty.
You got anything else you want to ask James?
I have got a cool story that it was with Kerry referencing, it ties into both Meatloaf and We Will Rock You. A few years ago, I was sent to interview Patti Russo, who played Killer Queen in We Will Rock You, was obviously Meatloaf's foil for many, many, many years. And she told me a whole bunch of Meatloaf stories, most of which I wasn't allowed to print, but this one I can tell. This one's all right. And when they do Paradise by the Dashboard live, it's extended out into this whole thing where they have this mock argument on stage, and it ends up with this big dramatic scene, and then she storms off, and it finished off that she's supposed to knee him in the groin, and all the audience cheer, and it's all staged, and
Yeah.
Meatloaf plays it for laughs, etc., etc. But she told me on this particular night, Meatloaf had been on at his band. He wasn't very happy with the previous night's performance, so he was throwing a bit of a diva strop. He wanted everything. People were going to get fined if it wasn't right, and this, that, and the other. And Patty took some issue with how he spoke to her. So when it came to doing the scene on stage, she didn't bother pulling her knee to the groin. She just gave him it for real, and apparently never had any problem for the rest of the tour.
Oh, man.
I love that. That's fantastic. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. She's great. She's
Oh, she
fantastic.
is force of nature, Patti Russo. It was the first time I met her. It was I'd known her forever. She was just stories, and that was one of the most mental
Beautiful.
days out I've ever had.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Right, Kerry, we're coming to the end of our time, but what I would like to do is for you now to give a sales pitch to obviously all the viewers watching this, why they should go out and buy Kings and Queens, apart from the fact it's a damn good album.
Oh, I had such a great time making it. I'm so proud of it. I think it's probably one of the best albums I've made. Probably everyone says that when it's their latest, but I really feel it was the right album to make at this time. It feels like a bit of just a mature album that I love listening to, and I really do enjoy it. And I think that's what people, it's just an easy thing to listen to, and hopefully people will go and have a little listen and enjoy, and keep and tell their friends.
Definitely. It's been an absolute pleasure, Kerry. I knew it would be. When James mentioned your name, like I said, I was like, oh, please make it happen.
Oh,
So,
I love.
James, thank you so much, mate, for doing this. It's been an absolute
My pleasure.
blast of mine as well. I've been your host, Pete Arnett. I'm going to call it a goodbye now from me. I'm going to let James say goodbye as well.
Thanks for listening, everybody. See you next time.
And obviously, goodbye, and a very big thank you as well to our special guest, Kerry Ellis, for joining us. Thank you so much, Kerry.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been lovely to chat to you guys, and thanks for all your support, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon. And if anybody happens to be in the Stafford area in the next 6 weeks, come and see me. I'm doing a play. Might not be your bag, but it's a fun play. It's Midsummer Night's Dream, and it's worth a little watch. So maybe come and see me.
And whereabouts is that again, Kerry?
Stafford at the Gatehouse.
The Gatehouse. There you go, people. You've been towed. Right. So until next time, everybody, keep listening to the music you listen to. Keep enjoying it. That's what it's there for. But above all, and until next time, take care, everybody. Goodbye.
All views heard in this podcast are from the individual and do not necessarily represent those of Fireworks Rock and Metal magazine.